Why is the mailroom being flooded with prayers?
California's on fire.
Feels like they should be flooded with prayers.
Or water.
There was also an earthquake in Tibet.
And 126 people died?
Real shaky start to the year.
Jesus.
Hey, have you heard about the incoming quademic?
Ugh, one-uppers.
Oh, my me. Where is Mother Nature? You missed.
I'll find her.
Good. Because I need to know what she's up to. Oh, this decade is exhausting.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Conversations with Taz. And oh, is there so much to get into? And before we get into the meat and potatoes, let's get into, I guess you could say, some side quest. Let's start with some notes for Red Note if you were part of the refugee pilgrimage over the weekend. Take note.
TikTok refugees, welcome to Red Note. Here are the basics on how to use this app. To change your profile picture, look at the bottom bar, click on me, then click on the circle, but don't click on the plus sign. And once you click on the circle, you can change your avatar. After you click on your profile, you can now change your Red Note ID so that people can look you up. Click on profile, this button right here, and click on name. This is your display name. You can change your name once every 7 days. And the second line, you'll see Red Note ID. It's in Chinese. Be very careful. Once you change this, you cannot go back. This is the ID that people will look up when they're trying to find you. Next, we will save an audio from a video. When you're watching a video, at the bottom right, there is a share button. Click on that. Scroll to the right, and you can click use audio. Note that not all videos can let you use audio. Now look at the bottom and hit collect. You now save the audio for future videos. If you want to curate the For You page, right above the share button is the pick button. This is the equivalent of the repost on TikTok. The star button is to add a video to a board, which is the equivalent of a TikTok playlist. Those are the basics, but there's a bunch of Red Note stuff that isn't on TikTok. I'll save that for a future video though.
Now from Red Note to an update. Some of you may remember, some of you may not, but there was an incident with a Seattle police officer who was caught on dash cam laughing at the unfortunate death of a civilian by the hands of a colleague. There's an update. Trigger warning.
You guys remember the Seattle cop that was seen laughing after his colleague fatally struck a grad student while he was speeding in his patrol car? If not, let me refresh your memory.
I don't think she was thrown 40 feet either. I think she went up on the hood, hit the windshield, then when he hit the brakes, flew off the car. But she is dead. No, it's a regular person. Yeah, just write a check. Just, yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
The officer who made those comments was Daniel Otterer, and he was responding to the scene where Janavi Kandula was hit and pronounced deceased just moments ago, and he was seen laughing about it, saying she had limited value, and he wasn't speaking to just anyone. He was speaking to the union president, Mike Solon. And let me remind you, the officer that hit her, Kevin Dave, was going 74 in a 25, almost 50 miles per hour over, but all criminal charges against him were dropped because they said they couldn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was consciously disregarding safety. So instead, he was hit with a minor traffic infraction and cited only $5,000, and he didn't even pay that fine and instead contested it. So the update is that Kevin Dave, the officer that was driving the patrol car that hit her, has officially been fired after they found out that he violated 4 police department policies, including knowing how to safely operate a police vehicle. They said because of the speed he was driving at, he didn't allow himself sufficient time to detect, address, and avoid a hazard that prevented itself. The police chief said, "I believe the officer did not intend to hurt anyone that night, and he was trying to get to a possible overdose victim as quickly as possible. However, I cannot accept the tragic consequences of his dangerous driving." She said his positive intent does not mitigate the poor decision that caused the loss of a human life and brought discredit to the Seattle Police Department. Not to mention, Daniel Otterer was also fired, but is now suing the city for releasing that video of him. Neither of the two officers owned up to what they did, apologized, or even faced the consequences of their actions without trying to contest it, because Janavi's life was not worth a $5,000 citation and she had unlimited value, and firing those officers won't bring her back, but at least it's one step closer to getting her the justice she deserves.
And we have a few more updates to get to. One, most notably, we know that the narrative is truly being pushed out now, even more than ever, although we know the truth, regarding January 6th and all of the MAGA rallies, especially in light of the Jack Smith report coming out. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But there's another child that had to out their parent. Take a look.
What went through your mind when you realized, hey, that's mom?
It was definitely very unsettling, especially because we do have very different views.
18-year-old Helena Duke of Boston says she got so incensed she outed her mom with this text. Hi, Mom. Remember the time you told me I shouldn't go to BLM protests because they could get violent? This you? Helena says she also outed her aunt and uncle, who were also at the rally. Helena doesn't know if her family went to the Capitol where the mayhem unfolded, but she knows that her mom is furious with her and says she was kicked out of the house after attending a Black Lives Matter rally in Boston. Her mom sent her a message after the tweet.
She told me that I was throwing away my life, that my life is ruined, and that my sister's life is on my hands.
We also spoke to Ashanti Smith, the private security officer who threw the punch.
Imagine watching unrest playing out in Washington and seeing your mother right in the middle of it all. Well, that's what happened to this teenage girl who turned on her own mother by identifying her online. She told Stephen Fabian how she wrestled with that decision.
This dramatic video is at the heart of a family torn apart by the strife gripping the nation. A woman is punched in the face by a police officer after an intense confrontation in Washington, D.C. the night before the Capitol siege. The video was posted online where it was seen by the bloodied woman's daughter. She was stunned to realize it was her mom because she had no idea her mother was in Washington to attend President Trump's Stop the Steal rally. What went through your mind when you
Is on my hands.
We also spoke to Ashanti Smith, the private security officer who threw the punch. She says the crowd surrounded her and called her the N-word.
They were calling me saying that we all deserve to die, hang.
Were you in fear for your safety, for your life in that moment?
I was in fear for my life. They were trying to take my items. They were trying to take my mask off my face. They were hitting me and attacking me.
Smith was charged with assault. She has been suspended from her job. She says she appreciates Helena Duke's support.
She has reached out to me, and her friends have been showing a lot of support.
She felt that she was being threatened, and she retaliated, and I don't think she did anything wrong.
Did you catch the language there? Turning on her mother. The discourse that's separating the nation. And originally called the private security officer a cop. And she thought she was threatened. She was definitively threatened. But the mother turned on her family. The mother was trying to put in her daughter's head that those blackies are the dangerous ones. Stay away from them. But who was engaged in violence? Who was engaged in hate speech? Who decided that we're not all unified because of the color of our skin? You know, the same people who are gearing up for Ed Trump's inauguration in a week. The same people who believe that we should come together and be patriotic to make America great again, but are also pushing to disrespect a former president. What do I mean? Walk with me here. Coming from UPI News, House Speaker Mike Johnson orders flags to be raised despite official mourning period for Jimmy Carter. Because, you know, Trump's ego, not about America first. It's about Trump first, GOP first, MAGA first, white supremacy first. But let's go. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson granted President-elect Trump's request to suspend a 30-day mourning period for former President Jimmy Carter in order to fly flags at full staff during the inauguration. Johnson's decision to raise flags during an official mourning period for a former president joins with a similar recent move by Texas to also raise flags there. Both decisions were made by Republican leaders and fly in the face of long-standing U.S. tradition. So I say we remember this. We take note of this. And when they pass, we don't do anything half-assed. Not half-staffed, not half anything. As a matter of fact, we wholly don't show up. We don't tune in. We don't acknowledge. On Tuesday, Johnson announced the flags at the Capitol on January 20th will fly at full staff to celebrate our country coming together behind the inauguration of our 47th president, the Louisiana Republican wrote in a statement later in the morning. Coming together? Who's coming together? The flags will be lowered back to half-staff the following day to continue honoring President Jimmy Carter, he said. I know people say you should not wish death upon anyone. And I'm not wishing death. I'm just wishing that when the inevitable happens, it happens when something that's based in tradition within these United States happens. When 45 turned 47, kicks the bucket. I hope it's during a time where things are back to back to back. Because we won't be mourning. That's when we will finally come together. Oh yeah, the one you said that right. The block parties that's gonna happen, baby. The ex-president was laid to rest last week at his home in Plains, Georgia, after a 3-day state funeral in Washington attended by every living U.S. president, vice president, and first lady except former First Lady Michelle Obama. And for those of y'all trying to come for Michelle Obama, let's not forget that just a few months ago, she lost her mother. And as someone who has lost a parent, going to funerals is going to be extremely difficult for a while. And she's not owed anything, especially since I posted on TikTok today about the fact that she will not be present at the upcoming inauguration. And the amount of people, she's a nobody. So what? Who cares? So why are y'all caring about the fact that she wasn't at Jimmy Earl's funeral? Make up your mind. Either she's a non-motherfucking factor and you don't care, or you do care. Because y'all care about every little step Melania takes, and Melania doesn't want to be in the White House or anywhere near General shits his pants. It arrived less than a week before Trump's second inaugural and days after Trump raised the flags to full staff at his Florida estate in open defiance to Biden and Governor Ron DeSantis of the historic protocol to keep at half staff following the death of an American president, a move of respect which one day will also be afforded to Trump. A bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit. I will buy a flag at a pole just to keep it at full staff and put up some legitimate flags, okay? Some Black Lives Matter flags, okay? Some MMIW flags. I'll put all of the flags up there. When he goes to the lower room, absolutely. Last month, President Joe Biden ordered flags to be lowered to half staff for 30 days per tradition after Carter, the 39th president who died last month at 100. Trump claimed Democrats were giddy over the idea of flags being lowered for the swearing-in ceremony. Because yes, nothing makes us happier than somebody that we like dying. Today's announcement follows a similar decision by Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a conservative Republican and fellow Trump ally, who ordered all flags raised to full staff at the state's capital in Austin and all state buildings on January 20th. Texas, y'all always talking about you want to secede. Secede from this fucking ruling. Secede from this fucking decision. On Monday, Abbott's office cited a federal statute that says a U.S. flag should be displayed, especially on Inauguration Day, as his reason to break the federal proclamation. It said it's supposed to be displayed. It is displayed at half staff, bitch. But what do you expect from Hot Wheels? Okay. Hot Wheels McGee sued to get the highest payout in Texas history to then go in and change the legislation so nobody could even come close to the settlement that he received. Once again, rules for thee, not for me. But they love you long time too, I guess. If you turn off the lights and squint your eyes and perform a self-lobotomy, I guess that, anything is possible. Anything, absolutely anything is possible and believable, and Now, let's get into the confirmation hearings for Pete Hegseth. Keep in mind, tomorrow begins the confirmation hearings for Pam Bondi. Yes, this was quick. This was the quickest confirmation hearing thus far in history. There was only one round of questioning, which is not the standard. It is not the status quo. It's not how things are supposed to go. You have an initial round of questioning, then you have backup questioning, etc., because you need to fully vet these people and make sure that the positions that you're putting them in that affect all of us in this godforsaken country, we're all safe. But no, per usual, you have weird ass, severely underqualified members of the GOP fangirling and putting out talking points because they're always thinking about the next election and pretending as if they don't reside here, and that a dilapidated military presence and dilapidated respect for the powers that be puts all of us in harm's way, because I'm pretty sure I don't want to be at war on this land because we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have anything to sustain us. Okay. We are set up as literal sitting ducks. And what they're not realizing, baby, you are on Capitol Hill. They're coming for you first. Okay. They want to eliminate you first, but let's go over some of the jewels. Hegseth was questioned regarding his views on women in combat and the lies that he has told regarding standards. Regarding women in combat. This included comments that he made just in November of 2024, because he kept trying to backtrack like, oh, that was years ago. I've changed my stance, bro. You were saying this shit right before the turn of the new year. He also contended that his views came from his point of view in talking to a variety of service people. Sweetheart, the people that you served with said that you were a piece of shit. When asked for examples of women not meeting standards, he couldn't give any examples. And when he was pressed about it, he spoke about quotas in regards to women, and he was called out for that by Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, a Democrat out of New York, stating that there are no such quotas that exist. And for those of y'all that love to come into my comment section with no real usernames, no pictures or whatever, and proclaim that you're women and say, oh, this is such a kick in the face to women, but then say, but I noticed while I was in the military that men were forced to pick up the slack for women. We know you're a man. We know you've never served. You didn't even step into a ROTC. Just stop. You're not, you don't fence ride well. Now, entered into the record were letters of endorsements from female service members, but there were a lot of letters from people after we've already got comprehensive reports, filings, interviews, everything else. But there's always somebody that's willing to bootlick, especially quid pro quo. So take it with a grain of salt. Now, it did appear very clearly today that Pete Hegseth, with all of his trips to Capitol Hill with his wife, which is unprecedented for a nominee to meet with members of the Senate on Capitol Hill with their spouse, it was giving very much, I'm going to try to force y'all to believe that I'm a family man, where he's not. And it's giving very much so him and his wife probably have shared social media accounts. Whether both of their names and pictures are on it or not, she's got access because she don't trust him. Remember, she got upgraded from mistress to wife because she was pregnant. But multiple times, Democrat senators pointed out that he refused to meet with them. He refused to answer their questions. And this was intentional as to why they kept it to one round of questioning, because they didn't have preliminary, they had to use their time for questions that would have been preliminarily answered. GOP Senator Mike Rounds, Republican out of South Dakota, softballed questions and used propaganda and talking points as Hegseth began his fangirling over Trump and proclaiming that Trump is going to be the greatest commander in chief. Damn. How much Trump cream do you need for your coffee, sir? Like, it was starting to feel like a Diddy party. He was also repeatedly questioned about misappropriation of funds in regards to the two veterans organizations that he headed. Actually, it was more than two, because a couple of them came together and formed one organization. Then he moved to another one. For some reason, we know the reason. Hegseth brought up Obama and tried to double talk his way out of it. He also decided to slide in the fact that he went to Harvard. Nobody cares. And it was one of those, yeah, I was unemployed from the veterans organizations for a while, but that's because I went to Harvard. To me, that sounds like you can't multitask, but okay. His tax returns were entered into the record because he just refused to talk about them. Senator Blumenthal, who is a Democrat, said that he would have supported Hegseth as a spokesperson for the Pentagon due to his communication skills. Boy, was that a time. That was a time. Basically, he said he was good at spinning bullshit. And we need somebody who can spin bullshit for the Pentagon, especially with all the budgetary issues that side note, I'm going to need y'all to stop blaming every person who's put in charge of the Pentagon for the history of the Pentagon, telling Congress we don't need any more money. We have shit rotting all over the place, and we're selling shit to the police forces that they don't need this shit. They're not properly trained for it. And there's nothing domestically going on where they need this shit. It's been a long-standing problem with the budget. But y'all love policing, and the military is just global police. Like, let's be true. That y'all don't have a problem with throwing all that money on it. Y'all just like, throw some money on it. Yeah, stop. But most notably from today, the GOP never tried to prove that Hegseth was qualified. Not once. There are many and many clips over on my TikTok page. Clips and articles are all online. Not once did they try to prove that this man was qualified. They tried to say he should have been nominated because he's under attack. The fact that Trump nominated him, he should be confirmed. They coached him into talking about his family and his wife and how many push-ups he could do. Not once did they bring up anything where he could talk about how he was qualified. Not once did any of them say that they're backing him because he's qualified. Not once did they say, oh, when you held this position here, this makes you qualified for this, or your military service gives you a unique perspective to hit. They didn't even try. They didn't even try. They did what they claim we Black, brown, indigenous people of color do. They allowed him to play victim and to use talking points. They brought up COVID and the experimental vaccine. And it goes to show that the people that we have on Capitol Hill, on the red side, the death side, the bleeding out side, the stop side, the red light side, the danger, are severely underqualified for really any position of any type of authority, any decision making. Any. And within the past 2 hours, Joni Ernst has come out and formally said that she will support Hegseth being confirmed. Yes, that is a total 180 from what she was saying previously, but keep in mind that Elon Musk stated that he would put forth his own money to primary her or anyone else out from the GOP that did not confirm him through, and they did wage a blitz campaign against her. Is that wrong? Absolutely. Is it unethical? Absolutely. Is that where we should be in United States politics? Absolutely not. That is not where we should be. But there's a portion, there's a lot, there's a huge chunk. The majority of that onus lies on the voting public. And why do I say that? Because you're letting this shit slide. You complain about these people being in office, but you're not voting them out. You're not talking to your friends and family members about what they're doing to get them out. You're letting disinformation, misinformation, you're letting flat out fucking lies fly in your face. You're not making a big stink about it. Because the Magadonians, the racists, the homophobes, the transphobes, they're loud. And what are we always taught? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. And y'all sitting back silently because you think that you're too good, you're too mature, you're too highfalutin to stoop to their level. Y'all the same people that will sit there and watch somebody defraud a company to get a discount that you know that they don't deserve. Or get something for free and say nothing and then get pissed off when your favorite store no longer exists in your neighborhood or the prices are now so high to compensate for all these fraudulent discounts that are going to Richards and Karen's. When are you going to speak up? When are you going to speak up? Throwing on a costume is not enough. Telling us how woke you are is not enough. Because y'all complaining, Jack Smith drug his feet. Oh, we wouldn't be here if you didn't do shit. You didn't say shit. Y'all don't even wait till the 11th hour. Y'all wait till 11:59 in 47.2 seconds to want to say something, to want to rally. And you don't know how to rally and won't ask how to rally. Swear to God. Now, Hegseth didn't show that he will give any pushback against anything Trump asks of him. And it's very clear that Hegseth will lie and double talk to obtain power. He, to me, is just a drunkard version of Mike Johnson. There are sleeper cells that want that power, and once they get in power, they'll suck up to Trump long enough to get enough connections to never get out of power. And a Hegseth confirmation will lead to issues that it will take generations just to get us back to where we are now, let alone any forward motion. Y'all complaining that equity ain't never coming. It's not. And if you haven't seen the clips from today, you need to go back and watch them. Like I said, they're up on my TikTok page. You need to go back and watch them because a lot of people finally said the quiet parts out loud. Hegseth himself said, we don't want equity. Let me repeat to you. Hegseth himself said we don't want equity. Now, coming from FoxNews.com, like I said before, GOP Senator Joni Ernst officially backs Pete Hegseth for DOD after initial uncertainty. I will support President Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, she told Fox News. First on Fox, Senator Joni Ernst, Republican out of Iowa, officially endorsed Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense on Tuesday night, despite expressing some initial uncertainty following their first meeting. After 4 years of weakness in the White House, Americans deserve a strong Secretary of Defense, Ernst told Fox News Digital in an exclusive statement. But you want to know some of the irony out of all of this? Yes. It's been widely publicized and talked about that she is a survivor of sexual assault in the military. We know that for decades she served in the military. But you want to know what I find insult to injury? And if I were her, girl, I need you to stand up. Shit, show us that you're a badass in the military. You are why they believe that women shouldn't be in combat roles and women in the military ain't shit, blah, 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 because you're acting like a bitch. She would have made a better nominee for the position. Do I agree with everything she does politically? Absolutely not. But on paper, she makes a better candidate than Pete Hegseth. And have I been in that position where I have completely outqualified somebody? You may not have liked my personality. You may not have liked how I get the job done, but I was qualified for it, and I was passed over for an underqualified white man. Absolutely. One time, you want to know, I'll tell you on another day, I had to train said replacement. And I knew that he was coming to take the position. And I let him know that I knew. Our next commander-in-chief selected Pete Hegseth to serve in this role, and after our conversations, hearings from Iowans, and doing my job as a United States Senator, I will support President Trump's pick for Defense Secretary. No, you didn't talk to Iowans. You didn't talk to all of them. You didn't talk to none of them. You got scared. You like being in that comfy position. And it's funny because throughout the hearings, many people in the GOP were talking about installed legacy career politicians while being installed legacy career politicians. As I serve on the Armed Services Committee, I will work with Pete to create the most lethal fighting force and hold him to his commitments of auditing the Pentagon, ensuring opportunity for women in combat while maintaining high standards and selecting a senior official to address and prevent sexual assaults in the ranks. You're not going to be able to do that, because that committee isn't going to be there for the day-to-day. That committee isn't going to be in the halls and the offices of the Pentagon. It sounds good on paper that you're going to be there like Jiminy Cricket on his shoulder, but you won't. And putting somebody like that in position and you doing this 180, if he were confirmed, everyone at the Pentagon knows they can't say shit. Not and keep their rank, not and keep their jobs, not and keep anything. Because keep in mind, Pete Hegseth is the one that said veterans were dependent upon the government. You know, those that utilize their well-earned veterans benefits that many now need to survive because of the United States military. President-elect Trump's pick to lead the Department of Defense, the DoD, went before the Senate Armed Services Committee on Tuesday morning, where he faced questions from both Democratic and Republican members. No, he faced questions from the Democrats. The Republicans was like, can I have some more? What kind of soap did you use? That tastes good to me. He was their breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack, honey. But honey, child, we're not through. From abcnews.go.com, FBI did not interview woman who accused Pete Hegseth of sexual assault in 2017. Sources. Hegseth has said the encounter was consensual and denied any wrongdoing. Keep in mind also today, Hegseth, when asked if he would consent to a full FBI background check, said, I'm not the director of the FBI. I can't tell them what to do. Are you okay? These are basic questions. You want to head the military as a whole. The FBI's probe into Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth did not include an interview with a woman who accused the former Fox News anchor of sexual assault in 2017. Sources familiar with the situation told ABC News. Isn't it amazing that people tend to forget that celebrities, media personnel live in this country and are voters? But we have in the same sentence that a DOD nominee is a former Fox News anchor. Well, Fox Entertainment anchor. Because they're officially listed as an entertainment company. The top senators on the Armed Services Committee were briefed on the FBI's background investigation last week, but sources said investigators did not speak to the accuser. The same accuser that was threatened by Hegseth's attorney with legal action should Hegseth not be confirmed. Like this woman has any pull on Capitol Hill. Like the police officers who initially got the information didn't also release the report and speak to people on Capitol Hill. Like background checks don't happen. A police report previously obtained by ABC News stated that a woman who is identified only as Jane Doe told investigators in October 2017 that she had encountered Hegseth at an event after party at a California hotel where both had been drinking and claimed that he sexually assaulted her. No charges were filed, although Hegseth subsequently paid the woman as a part of a settlement agreement, which Hegseth attorney Tim Palatori said was only because Hegseth feared his career would suffer if her allegations were made public. Now, we've gone through this exhaustively on this podcast. You can go back through previous because this woman's husband was there. Like, it's a lot deeper and a lot more complex and nuanced than that. But Hegseth, just like the GOP, knows that their constituency has been trained like house pets for snippets, for headlines, and easy to digest and memorize talking points for them to just blurt out and regurgitate. Because the amount of people, they'll say, yeah, Pete Hegseth knocked it out the box. Oh, he's so qualified. How is he qualified? Crickets. Crickets. I don't make the news. I'll just talk to you about it. And coming from the Associated Press, Hegseth's views on women in combat, infidelity, and more, in his own words. And before we get into this article, I don't know if many people caught it, but when Hegseth was asked if someone who had engaged in domestic violence should be excluded from the nomination process for consideration, he kept talking about, well, that's a hypothetical. That's a hypothetical. You want to head the DOD. This is a question that you would be faced. He wants all these high standards for generals, etc., but basically no standards for himself. And he couldn't say, oh, absolutely, they should be excluded. And it seemed very, very cautious. Like, what else could we possibly find out about you? And just speculating here, just spitballing, is that why you're keeping your wife so close? Because you talked about Pete Hegseth, how great of a mother she is to your blended family, blah, blah, blah. But your custody and parenting agreement for your daughter that was born 2 months before you were busted out with the affair with wife number 3 was admitted into the record, which means that you don't have as much time, and you throwing out your daughter's full government name and you want to head the DOD was not a smart move. But who's taking care of your current children? And you talk about conversations with your older child like an aunt and uncle talks about speaking with their nibbling, because that's not a day-to-day thing, but I digress. Pete Hegseth tried to convince members of the Senate Armed Services Committee on Tuesday that he should be the next Secretary of Defense as lawmakers peppered him with questions about his character and views on a range of military issues. Once again, the Democrats questioned him. The Republicans softballed him like a motherfucker. An author of several books and former Fox News Channel host, Hegseth has been forced to defend himself against a long record of his own public comments, including in his most recent book, The War on Warriors: Behind the Betrayal of the Men Who Kept Us Free. Yeah, y'all know he doesn't believe in war crimes, right? Just like he doesn't believe in germs because he can't see them. But he says that he's a child of God, he's a good Christian. Do with that information what you will. His wide-ranging opinions could provide some insight into how he could approach the top Pentagon job if confirmed. At times, he says he's been misconstrued, but other times he tried to soften his previously stated views on contentious topics. So let's take a look at his words. On the state of the U.S. military, an Army veteran who rose to the rank of major and served in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, Hegseth, 44, says he believes that standards have declined and that efforts to expand diversity, equity, and inclusion have driven white men away. And there was a senator that said that wokeness equals weakness. And Hegseth agreed. He complains in his latest book that woke generals and the leaders of the elite service academies have left the military dangerously weak and effeminate by promoting DEI. I don't know how you become effeminate, but he says the next commander in chief will need to clean house. Now, today he put out that he went to Princeton. He put out that he went to Harvard, but complains that generals and leaders of the elite service academies, see how they like to slide in? I have an elite education, but I'm not the elite. I got elite friends, but I'm not the elite. Kind of like what white country music singers do. Turns out all the diversity recruiting messages made certain kids, white kids, feel like they're not wanted, he said in his book. No, it made white people realize you cannot go into the military and live out your disastrous racist fantasies and desires and force a little nookie on the side. If confirmed, he said there will be no more social justice, politically correct approaches to how we fight and conduct wars. This is about lethality, meritocracy, readiness. But what meritocracy led you to be nominated? Because the standards that were put on everyone else that held the position before him, he's nowhere close. On women in combat, Hegseth's opposition, stated in his book and interviews, was simple and direct before his nomination on November 12th, and a little bit afterwards. But in the face of questions from Congress, he appears to have altered his stance. For the cameras. It's no different than an abusive parent that we know, or an abusive partner. We know they're knocking motherfuckers between the washing machine and the wall. But in public, they're the most doting and da-da-da-da-da. And a lot of times you don't catch the subtle things that they do to keep their person or people in line. The digs that are cloaked as comedy. It's just a little humor, a little funny. Don't be so sensitive. I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. Quick history question for y'all. What military within the United States has been without a woman? Now, you can tell me when they pass legislation to officially let women in. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about reality. What brand, what type, what level of military has been void of women? Where have women been a hindrance? And I'm not talking about instances where men hindered themselves because they were preoccupied by boobs or finding out that someone that they thought was one of the boys wasn't. Women have a place in the military, he said, just not in special operations, artillery, infantry, and armored units. So as nurses and cooks, as secretaries. In his book, he said women have performed well in dangerous support roles during war, but women in the infantry, women in combat on purpose, is another story. So if women end up in combat accidentally and are doing well, purposefully choosing it, they fail. I don't think he went to school nowhere. In another story, he adds, women cannot physically meet the same standards as men. Then why do y'all have to be numbed for everything? Why is it that you will push for children, but you can't give up any of your sleep because you can't function? And strength comes in many different categories. He said, dads push us to take risks. Not in everybody's household. No, my daddy pushes me to take the safe route. Now, my mama, on the other hand, if we die, we die. Shit. It don't be fun, though. It's going to be an adventure. Moms put the training wheels on our bikes. That was my job? That was shit. Need to have a conversation with somebody, but not in the military, especially in combat units. This is not Saving Private Ryan. Most of y'all combat right now is drones, like a video game. Asked about the issues on the Megyn Kelly show in early December, Hegseth said he cares only that military standards are maintained. Women serve in combat, he said, and if we have the right standard and women meet that standard, Roger, let's go. Women already are. But he also said, moms shouldn't be in the military. I guess giving birth makes you something. Like, I love how these men admit that they don't care about anyone outside of themselves. On infidelity and sexual assault allegations, Hegseth faced allegations that he sexually assaulted a woman he met at a conference in California in 2017. He denied it, saying it was consensual. No charges were filed. He has acknowledged paying a settlement to the accuser, contending he did so to head off a baseless lawsuit. The matter was fully investigated and I was completely cleared. That is not true. He also acknowledged multiple instances of infidelity, including the California incident, and he also cheated while he was active in the military. Oops. Was I not supposed to share that? On drinking. Remember, multiple times on camera with a plethora of witnesses. Hegseth had to be carried out of places. Hegseth pissed on himself multiple times in front of people, passed out in front of hotels, pissed in bushes in front of hotels. But he said that's not a problem. Extremism in the military. He still says that his white supremacist tattoos are just good Christian tattoos. But you know. Why take accountability? And if you want to know about his time in sexual assault and aggression and improprieties, look up what happened. Oh, no problem. Look up former and current co-host of Fox News of his, and most notably, Julie Roginsky, Roginsky. Yeah. Now, for the Jack Smith report. If you have not had a chance to read it, there's 147 pages. There's some filler pages in there, table of context, etc. It is completely up on my blog, Camp Taz. That is linked in the bio here and on all of my socials. Please go take a look at that. You can go through that as you would. Yeah, dads are really the most protective ones. Like, let's be real. They like to do that TV movie, like, oh, the dads are like, oh. They don't. But let's get into some of the points, notable points of Jack Smith's report. Now, going through the report, and yes, I'm going to go over it even more tonight and give, as with any report, if you're new around here, let me explain to you, those of y'all that have been here for a while, bear with me. anytime a report comes out, anytime a SCOTUS decision or any major legal decision comes out, yes, I will give an initial report and you'll go, oh, that's really detailed. But as the days go on, I'll start connecting the dots with different parts of history, different proceedings, and all sorts of stuff. So we're going to talk about this for quite a few days. Okay. And if there's anything that I touch on that you want expanded, feel free to reach out and I have no problem doing that. So if you don't grasp everything tonight, don't worry about it. Like I said, this will be a continual conversation. It's 174 pages. Okay. So we got a lot to go through. Trump would have been convicted if it wasn't for the SCOTUS POTUS immunity ruling. Yes, that's what I call it. The SCOTUS POTUS immunity ruling. And Trump's reelection. Now, keep in mind, this technically would not have fallen under the presidential immunity ruling of SCOTUS because the rally at the Ellipse was completely paid for with campaign funds and funds from PACs. So this took it outside of the scope of presidential duties, which takes it outside of the scope of presidential immunity. And let's start with this quote from the report. Mr. Trump engaged in an unprecedented criminal effort to overturn the legitimate results of the election in order to retain power. Mr. Trump also attempted to use the power and authority of the United States government in furtherance of his scheme. And before anybody says, no, that's true, it was a political witch hunt. No, it wasn't. Trump began his political campaigning for the presidency well before anyone else in the history of political campaigning in the United States. Because he thought that by just jumping into the race, it would make everything go away legally. And it also gave him great talking points in order to grift off of his fan base. I can't even say a voter base because that's a fan base. Because there are people who have never voted, still didn't vote for Trump, people who cannot vote right now because of things that they did in his name the last time. Now, to go on further to quote the report, Jack Smith says, and I quote, "To all who know me well, the claim from Mr. Trump that my decisions as a prosecutor were influenced or directed by the Biden administration or other political actors is, in a word, laughable." Now, for the entirety of Jack Smith's career, he has been a by-the-book, nonpartisan prosecutor. I need you all to realize that Jack Smith was appointed to this position in November of 2022. If this was politically motivated, we ain't had to wait 2 years. And Jack Smith, even though the prosecution was not in his favor, was the lead prosecutor on the John Edwards case. John Edwards, the Democrat out of North Carolina. Jack Smith don't give a shit. You break the law, you break the law. Okay? All he sees is legal and illegal. He don't give a fuck which side of the aisle you're on. And Jack Smith has never came out and told us where his political leanings are. For all we know, he could be independent. Hell, he could be a part of the Temperance Party. Yes, the Temperance Party is still a thing. It didn't go away. He could be a Green Party member. Hell, he could be one of those last holding on Tea Party members. He could be a fucking Republican. Hell, he could be a Macedonian. We don't know. We just know this man was like, I spent all these years going to school, taking all these tests, paying all this money, passed the bar exam, climbing the ladder. I'm not fucking this shit up. I wanted this career. I worked hard on this career. I'm going to do the best I can at this career. Because when you're talking about what people consider skilled labor, in my opinion, there's no such labor that's not skilled, but that's a conversation for another day. Why would you put so much energy and effort into tanking your own shit? Student loans cost, going to school costs too much. Not just monetarily, but time, blood, sweat, tears. And beyond tuition, it costs to take exams. It costs to do research. It costs to do everything. Okay? In a minute, they're going to start charging you on college campuses to sneeze. I'm just waiting for them to have an app where you get to reserve where you get to sit in the auditorium. And that's a $4.99 plus service fee endeavor. And also, to quote the report, Mr. Trump has not contested a single factual representation in the report. Instead, he objecting only to its public release. Which is true, because I posted Trump's reaction from Truth Social. Trump was up at 1 a.m. waiting for the report to drop. A man who needs to be finishing up his transition, preparing for the inauguration, getting up to speed on briefings, is scouring the internet. And if you listen to the verbiage that Trump uses, he's not denying what's in the report. And before you go, Taz, I've heard him talk about it. I've seen what he posts on social media. I need you to go back and listen and really use your smarticle particles. I need you to go back and reread. And I need you to think. I need you to take away your disdain for him. I need you to eliminate what his sycophants say and look at what he's saying. He attacks the people, but not anything else. Even with his 34 convictions, we just saw it at the sentencing. He didn't contest the foundation of the convictions. He contested the process. He contested the people involved in the process. He contested it being and complained about it being inconvenient for him, but not the merits of the case. Just like he's not contesting, condemning, or denying the merits of the report. He doesn't want it public. He's called Jack Smith everything that he could possibly think of, but hasn't denied or said, nope, I didn't do this. Y'all saw me doing this. Oh, no, I didn't do this. This can be proven. And he's had ample chances and ability to say, hey, let me just tell my story. Let me show you my evidence so we can put this behind me. No, he's delayed. And now he's just attacking. It's no different than somebody gossiping about you. When they are questioned about it, well, where's the evidence? Where's the receipts? Where's the... Oh, well, she ain't shit anyway. He did... Think about it when a cheater gets caught cheating. It's your fault. I didn't really sleep with her or him. We was just chilling in the bed together naked. It's like the Shaggy song. It wasn't me. Didn't deny it. Didn't say you didn't see with your own eyes. Didn't say you didn't hear what you heard with your own ears. I'm going to just attack everybody that's giving information. For those of y'all that keep saying it was a partisan witch hunt, this is politically motivated. Okay, then why are all the witnesses Republicans? Why are all the people with evidence Republicans? Why is it that Republicans all have saved emails, saved text messages, saved voice recordings, saved phone call recordings, saved videos, CCTV footage, sitting in their back pocket as a get out of free jail card, as a Uno reverse, as a I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks on you. Why? Because publicly and very well documented, Trump ain't fucking with Democrats. Outside of him trying to force a friendship with Barack Obama every time he sees that man in public. It's a Lenny and George situation. Of mice, barely a man. The next 4 years are going to be tumultuous. The next 4 years are going to be brimming with lies. I'm not going to say disinformation. I'm not going to say misinformation. I'm going to call it what it is. Flat out lies. You can call it propaganda. You can call it marketing. It's lies. You will no longer have to wonder how Nazi Germany became Nazi Germany. You're watching it happen. History that should have never repeated itself is happening. It didn't take 100 years. So stop the narrative. This happened so long ago. That's happened so long ago. We're over this. We're over that. It doesn't take that long. It takes a generation, if that, for shit to cycle back. Because when you don't deal with it, it's like not dealing with mold in your home. You can paint over it. It will quickly eat through it and keep surfacing again. I'm going to need you, as hard as it is, take deep breaths and meditate when you need. Take a break when you need. But do not let your emotions cloud what's going on. Attribute people's words and actions to them, not the words and actions of other people to them, for them, or about them. And before you say, you're reaching, we don't do that. Yes, you do. Because Taylor Swift fans do that all the fucking time when it comes to Taylor Swift. Y'all have proclaimed her to be this feminist icon, and the woman ain't never said that she was any of that. She has done nothing to earn that title. Just like you beehive heifers. You do the same thing. You say that Beyonce is this, that, and the other things that she's never said that she was, things that she's never said that she's done. Y'all do that. People do that with Trump. They do it with Biden. They do it with Harris. They do it with anybody with any type of notoriety because you want and need them to be something for them. But you have to look at people for what they actually say and what they actually do and address what they actually say and what they actually do. And do not allow someone to let you forget what you see with your own eyes and hear with your own ears. And I know that is the status quo. It is what we are all accidentally indoctrinated to do. And what do I mean by that? You ever get mad at somebody and then years go past and then you realize you don't know why you've ever been mad at them? And it's because somebody told you something, you didn't verify it. And you got pissed at that person because you felt that they were being fake because they were not living up to the bullshit you were fed and you chose to eat. Just because somebody puts the plate in front of you doesn't mean you got to eat it. You want to be a picky eater when it comes to everything else, but when it comes to information. And I tell y'all all the time, I should always be the starting point for your own research. This is why I tell you where I get everything. I show you how to get things. It doesn't all have to come out of a book. It doesn't all have to come from news media. Trust but verify. If you've been rocking with me long enough that you realize that you can trust because I'm going to verify, kudos, great. I'm glad we got that far. But if you're new here, you ain't even got the trust. Just go verify. Because one thing for certain, two things for sure. I'm not going to tell you something I'm not going to do myself. And I'm not going to tell you to do something regarding somebody else that you shouldn't do towards me. If I give you any advice, use that towards me as well. I'm just as human as everybody else. I just personally think I have better jokes. Now, quick reminder, because I got in trouble again over on TikTok, so I have no live access over there. For tomorrow, for the book reading, Lies About Black People, I will once again do it over here, but I'm also going to do it. I'm going to do a duality here and on Instagram at the same time. And do not forget the Task Club, the book club. We're going to be going over Black women's history in the United States. We'll be on Zoom, so if you have not clicked on the link to sign up, please make sure that you sign up. It's free. It's free. We're just changing platforms because this is becoming a headache. Where people can't all get together because we're having to bounce platforms, and I don't want you to have to create an account someplace that you don't want to, on a platform you don't want to be at, where you're not comfortable, which is fine. Also, make sure you check out where else you can find me on socials and all the classes and open discussions. Make sure you join us. We do have a rocking good time over there. And talking about race doesn't have to be a pain in the butt. We do have a good time. We do laugh. And we share some great stories. And before you go, you laugh when you're talking about race. Yes, because racism is fucking funny. It's fucking funny. When you really talk about it to its core and you get into the nitty-gritty history, this shit's funny. It's hilarious. And if you don't believe me, come on by, swing on by, pop in, have a spot of tea and a snack. But always, thank you for joining me here. And each one reach one, each one teach one, and let's go out with Mufasa.
Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. What? Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Get it, Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Get it, Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Get it, Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Go, Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Say it again. Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa.
Thank you.